is there something that I could do from home today to allow me to continue to work on my dancing so that when I get out and I can dance again with other people, I don't feel completely out of sync? I had a blast with this question. I'm Maren and this is Q&A with Heart and Soul Dance. I had so many ideas on this that it was actually a little challenging for me to narrow it down. So I came up with 3 things. I wanted to do one in a couple of different categories, one each in a couple of different categories. So the first category I wanted to work with was balance. So I've got a proprioception drill that will help you with balance and stability. And then, of course, everybody always wants to work on footwork. So yes, we have a deceptively simple footwork drill. And then last, but certainly not least, we're going to work with the core and some flexibility and how we can work with that. So I know that there's a lot of places out there that are doing something similar to this, and you can find them online. Plus, at the studio, we have our virtual Wednesdays, which is all technique at home. So you could always tune in for that. But right here, we've got 3 drills for you, so stay tuned. Okay, so our first drill is what we call a proprioception drill. That's just a fancy word for knowing where you are in space. And our bodies help us to determine that. So when we stand on one foot, our body is trying to find where it is in space so that it can be balanced. It's a balanced drill. So when we do this, just that is helpful. And then as we get more comfortable with standing on one foot, or even to help us to become more comfortable in standing on one foot, doing something like moving from a down to an up, right? So down, and I'm not going up on the ball of my foot, I'm just going from a lunge position up to a balance. Now, there are a couple of things that will help with this. First and foremost, right? So you have a center axis that runs through your body. Think of it as like a guitar string or a laser pointer that moves through your head. So if you had a laser pointing going from your head down through your body, right through the center, and you were able to draw on the floor. So right there, I'm drawing side to side and forward and backwards. If I think of that and I stand myself up nice and straight so that all my blocks are stacked. Think of your head as a block, your shoulders as a block, your ribs as a block, your hips as a block. And when we're stacked nicely, we're not having to engage muscle to stand. So if I'm not stacked, now all of a sudden I have all these muscles engaged in order to stand here. Where in order to dance well, and actually even to stand well and to breathe well and to do all kinds of things well, the best thing for our bodies is to stack ourselves, have our structure, our bones be the structure, and those are the ones they're meant to hold me up. So if I've got that in place, now I can actually shift my center over each of my feet and I have much better balance. My sense of where I am in space is learning how to find my balance point. And it is trainable. It's not something people always tell me, oh, I have bad balance. It's actually something that's trainable. So when you're doing this exercise, just recognize that as and you saw me just fall off balance there, right? As I come to those places where I fall off balance, right? I'm a little bit off of balance and then I find my balance. I'm training my body to know where my balance point is, right? So as you're doing this, you can just shift from side to side, and then you can come up and go back down, and come up, go back down. And like I said, you're not going up under the ball of the foot. For right now, you're just stacking, going down and coming up, and training your body to find your own balance point, where that is. And that's my dog. She wants to come in. All right, let's get started with our deceptively simple footwork drill. So what I'd like for you to imagine is that your feet are velcroed to the floor. And in order to pull your heel off the ground, you have to actually articulate it all the way up to the ball of the foot And then to put it back down, you have to articulate it back down, and oh, it's stuck. So then you have to pull it off the floor as if it's stuck on Velcro, and then you put it back down. You're going to do the same thing with your other foot. So as I said, you're going to peel it off the floor slowly, articulating it all the way up, and then think about pushing it back down slowly and articulating it back down. So all the way up and then back down. So getting just that articulation in your foot, if you go to do a point or a releve, if you don't have that articulation, even a step, when you go to do a step, if you don't have that flexibility and articulation in your foot, it's going to be so much harder. You're not going to look as good, you're not going to feel as good. So just working, this is level 1, working on getting that flexibility and articulation in your foot, building the flexibility, building the strength. The next level is to actually work on that strength part. And the way we do that is alternating the feet, right? So that there's a moment when I have both of my feet on the balls of the feet, and then I switch and I roll down. Now you notice that I'm not doing this quickly. I'm doing this very slowly. What that builds is not only the strength and, oh, we talked about this before, the proprioception for my body, but it also helps me to build the control, because in order to do it slowly, I have to have control, okay? So that's a fun footwork drill for you to do. Let's talk about core next. So lastly, certainly not least, let's talk about our core. We're going to talk about our rib cage and our core and engaging both. So you notice that I grabbed a chair, so go ahead, grab a chair, have a seat. I find it easier to isolate my rib cage if I'm not thinking about whether my hips are moving. So when I'm seated, my hips are obviously not moving. All right, so fairly simple exercise, just getting you engaging your rib cage. So what I would like for you to do is you're going to put your hands on your rib cage, and you're going to try and move your rib cage from side to side, yeah? And you'll notice if I remove my hands, I'm just moving it from side to side. What's nice about this, how this helps in dancing, is that we have a lot of things where we might want to do some play, or we might need to do a stretch or a line. And we find that, we always are observing those dancers or admiring those dancers who have all this flexibility. Well, guess what? This is the type of thing that they do. The other thing that you can do for this is stretch your fingertips out and try and reach to each wall. So you notice that you can't use your hips. So you could roll from cheek to cheek, these cheeks. Oh, and there's my dog again. So you can roll from cheek to cheek, but you're really going to start to stretch that rib cage from side to side. So from there, we're going to do that same thing, but we're going to take our rib cage backwards and forwards. And I'm going to turn sideways so that you can see me more easily. So I'm going to take my rib cage back and forward, and back and forward. I'm going to get my arms out of the way so it goes back and forward and back and forward. So you can think about the same thing of like I'm trying to push my rib cage to the front, and then I'm going to try and push my rib cage to the back, right? So I've got 4 planes. I've got side to side and forward and back. I want to think now on going on the angles. So from here, I'm going to take my right rib cage off to the right, and then my left side off to the left, and go forward on this angle and forward on that angle. And then I can do the same thing backwards, back to the right and back to the left. Eventually being able to do a full circle, thinking about articulating that. Now, if you do this for, say, 2 minutes a day, you will notice a marked difference in your core stability, in your flexibility, and in just actually you'll be a little sore, sorry, but if you're not used to doing it, it will happen, that's okay. So make sure that you're doing the exercises. It's one thing to watch them and know them up here and go, oh yeah, I've heard that before. This is nothing really new. It just is sitting your butt down and doing it. So we certainly covered a lot of material today. If you have any questions on it at all, drop me a line. I would love to hear from you. Plus, remember that Thursdays is Q&A Thursdays. So we answer your questions. If you have a question, shoot us an email, send us a Facebook message, however you want to contact us. We would love to hear from you. We look forward to seeing you on the dance floor.